At IQWealth.com. I'm Rod Tanner.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday. And it is. It's Friday, May the 11th, and we're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park from the Money Radio Studios, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. And it is May, and May is a time where we need to recognize mental health. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I want to just share with you some statistics and some information about Mental Health Awareness Month. So beginning in 1949, the month of May was designated to recognize mental health awareness in this country. Millions of Americans face this reality of living with mental illness. And during May, many organizations and individuals work to raise the awareness of mental health. Each year, they fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and advocate for policies that support people with mental health illnesses and their families. Now get this. Here's some statistics. It's an estimated 1 in 4 older adults experiences some mental disorder such as depression, anxiety, and dementia. And this number is expected to double. That's right, double by 2030. So my math tells me 25% of older adults suffer from one of these disorders, depression, anxiety, and dementia. And if it doubles, I guess that's about 50%. It's important for caregivers. And for those that have listened to the show, that's the business my family is in. And I'm referring to family caregivers to remember that mental health problems are not a simple part of aging. Left untreated, these issues can lead to fatigue, illness, and unfortunately, suicide. So, with that, I have brought a guest back to the show, and I am really proud to have Rich Crislip here on the show. He is the Director of Behavioral Health Integration with HomeCare Arizona. And if you were listening to our show last week, we were talking about alcohol awareness in seniors. And I'll tell you, Rich, I'm still struggling with the fact that you said if you're 65 and older, and I'm not quite there yet, that if you are a male, you should only have 2 drinks a day. And if you're a female, 1. And I'm still thinking, how can I aggregate those? Rich Crislip, thank you for being back on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. And thank you for bringing up this important topic to your listeners.
Well, thank you. And, you have a specialty in the area of behavioral health. And I know that HomeCare Arizona is a Medicare Advantage plan that deals and works with members that are typically 65 and older. And you probably see some of this every day.
Yeah, sure. You were stating the numbers. The numbers are daunting. And
50%?
Yes.
Wow.
And, as we get older, we're often faced with other trials that we don't experience when we're younger. We experience more loss. We may experience more social isolation. And oftentimes that brings more hardship to the mind and to the mood. So at HomeCare, we recognize that. And my title is Behavioral Health Integration. That's what I do. And that's what we really work on at HomeCare, is that we want to bring the mind and body and really take a holistic approach to working with our members.
And, we had a chance to chat just before the show. Stigma is a big deal. And the other part is you use the word integration. And there's so many providers out there that aren't integrating that mind, body, and spirit, if you would, that they're siloed. And, they may be seeing one physician for their general health. They might be seeing another physician for their mental health, but the two aren't talking to one another. That's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, correct. We've had a fragmented system for quite a while now, and thankfully we are beginning to merge those two systems again, because the mind and the body are one, and they interact constantly. And the more you look at how you think directly impacts your physical health. And a lot of people don't really understand that. They think that, how you think and how you feel are kind of isolated and they do their own thing, when actually it not only impacts your emotional health, but it also impacts your physical health. So bringing, how the mind is functioning into our total health care is essential to overall wellness.
I couldn't agree with that more. And, I'm really glad to have you here on the show. And, HomeCare Arizona, provides a lot of resources to the members as well as the community. And, we talk about stigma and we talk about mental health. And, I can recall, it's interesting. We all remember things from our childhood. And I can remember going to family functions and my mother and father saying, that person, don't go near him. Don't go near him. And, it was that stigma. And, nowadays, look, we need to accept and embrace this. And there are resources that are available in our community that can normalize somebody going through some behavioral health challenges.
Yeah, stigma has always been an issue, and I think people tend to look at our behavior through a moral lens, and we tend to look at the way we deal with life emotionally through a moral lens. And if a person is struggling with that, there's a sense of weakness. They feel that they have some sort of weakness, so there's a moral failure or some kind of shame-based issue going on, when that's not the case at all. People forget that our thinking and our behavior and our emotional functioning, all those things occur in our brain. And our brain is an organ in our body, just like any other organ. And that organ, just like any other organ in our body, can become disturbed. It can become ill. It can suffer a reduction in functioning. It is just as vulnerable to illness and difficulties and challenges like our stomach. We don't seem to have a problem with somebody has ulcers. We don't seem to have a judgment about if somebody has breathing issues or heart issues. Those organs are susceptible and vulnerable to illness and decline. Mm-hmm. But when it affects the brain, we seem to forget that, no, it's not an organ. This is the moral self, and that's outside of the physical functioning.
Another thing that I know definitely affects the brain, and I talk a lot about it here on the show, and I talk about it in the community in general, is the fact that the stats are overwhelming, that we have our older adult population, 65 and older. Nationally, we have 1/3 that are living home alone.
Yes.
And in some markets like Atlanta, Georgia, 48%, Washington, D.C., 45%, San Francisco, it's in the 40s. And we're learning so much about social isolation. I know I've said it here on the show. It's not quite 2 packs a day, but it's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day by being socially isolated. And those people that are socially isolated are missing what we need as a human species. Yes. We need that socialization. That is vital to our success and thriving and growing. And without that, I got to imagine the things that we talked about, depression and other issues come up because they're not interacting with others.
Correct, and that's a good topic as we go into our next section here to discuss further.
Well, we got a little music taking us out. Wes, thank you. It's hard to believe that we're down one segment, Rich, and we got a lot more to cover. And May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we really, really, really need to draw attention to this. 1/4 of our population is suffering from this, and as I said at the top of the hour, by 2030, it's going to double. Stay tuned. We're down one segment. You've been listening to Health Futures. I got Rich Crislip in the studio from HomeCare, Arizona. We'll be right back.
Retired or retiring soon? Looking for real-world financial advice? Don't miss one of America's best daily radio shows on retirement investing, Mastering Money, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. with accredited investment fiduciary and Kiplinger contributor Steve Jurich. Listen as Steve lays out the strategies that can simplify your life, increase your income, and grow your money. Don't worry. Retire happy. Tune in to Mastering Money every day at 8 right here on Money Radio. See you there.
Would you know what to do if you encounter a wrong-way driver? Let's hope you never find out. But if you ever do see a wrong-way driver coming at you, slow down, safely steer away, and get off the roadway. At night, drive defensively and be aware of what's ahead and around you. And if you see a sign warning of a wrong-way driver, safely move toward and take the next freeway exit on the right. Drive aware. Get there. Sponsored by the Arizona Department of Transportation in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you suffer from back pain, joint pain, arthritis, or other chronic pain, you need to try the water therapy benefits that Advantage Therapeutic Walk-In Bath provides. Not only does Advantage Walk-In Bath help get you in and out of the tub safely, it is proven to be beneficial to relieve aches and pains, giving you the relief to enjoy your day. You can enjoy taking your new bath and rejuvenating your body in as little as 7 days. And if you call today and ask for the radio special, we'll give you a $1,500 coupon towards the purchase of a new Vantage walk-in bath. Every call in the next 10 minutes will receive a $1,500 coupon towards the purchase of a new Vantage walk-in bath. Your aches and pains can be washed away. Call right now for a risk-free quote. 800-551-9230. 800-551-9230. 800-551-9230. That's 800-551-9230.
Spend Mother's Day with the D-Backs. Sunday's game is at 5 p.m. and moms will take home the faux leather D-Backs tote bag. Check it out at dbacks.com/mom.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and I'm your host, Bob Roth. And if you're just tuning in, we're on our second segment. I've got Rich Crislip from HomeCare, Arizona. He's the Director of Behavioral Health Integration, and we are talking mental health awareness. Yes, May is Mental Health Awareness. It's a month that is dedicated to raising the awareness about prevention, treatment, and recovery support resources available in our communities, and specifically right here in Arizona, HomeCare, Arizona. So when we left off, we talked about social isolation. It's a big challenge, isn't it, Rich?
Well, it is. In our country, we tend to divide ourselves. We tend to separate ourselves as we age. We go into retirement communities, and we just tend to kind of break away from the family unit and the family communities, and that kind of causes trouble for us as we get older, and we do often find ourselves isolated and socially disconnected. And let me tell you, that's one of the worst things that we can do for ourselves. Social connection is essential. You use the word vital, and I agree with that. To the overall, not only mental health functioning, but physical functioning, as you said. We are social beings. We are naturally dependent on one another for our welfare and for our goodwill and for our well-being and all those things. And when we become isolated, it directly impacts our mood and our physical functioning. So even when we treat depression, one of the three key elements of treating depression is increasing social connection. Research has shown when they do brain scans and they evaluate people over a long period of time, they say that one of the three key elements of experiencing consistent and lasting joy in your life is having social connection.
You know, I've talked about it here on the show, and I want to just bring it up again, how things were so different back in our last century. And I remember growing up in Baltimore, Maryland, and my grandmother, she took care of her husband, she took care of her mother, she took care of her brother. You know, there was such a thing called nuclear family.
Yeah.
And everyone lived in the same neighborhood, so to speak. You know, I used to kid about it. I had more aunts and uncles than my mother and father had brothers and sisters because you just didn't call somebody Mr. or Mrs. because that was too formal, and you would never call them by their first name because that was too informal and it was disrespectful. So the endearing name was an aunt or uncle, you know, Uncle Joe or Aunt Louise. I mean, we were really close, and we were tightly knit. And nowadays, statistics show that the adult child is on average about 280 miles. That's it, 280 miles from their parents. So who's there to help?
Right.
It's a crisis.
Yeah, it is. It is a part of our culture, and it is becoming something that is, probably become more of an issue over time. Is that we do divide ourselves. We do tend to go our own ways, and there's a lot of strengths for that. There's a lot of strengths in people breaking out and going their own way and finding their own path. But with that, do we really need to disconnect ourselves from one another?
Right. And, you know, technology won't replace human interaction and being there.
Right.
But I will tell you, Rich, when I read those statistics to start, 25% of our population has some type of form of mental health issues. And the numbers, you know, or should I say the issues were surrounding around, you know, depression and anxiety and dementia.
Yes.
So what can we do? How do we not have that stat double by 2030? That's 12 years from now. How can we make a difference?
Well, you know, we have to look at it in two different ways. There's number one, what can the individual do? What can we do as people, as ourselves? Is that number one, we really need to start looking at the management of our mind as being just as important as the management of our physical body. We're getting better at diet and exercise, but right up there with those should be how are we managing the thoughts that tend to make us anxious and tend to make us depressed? How do we put more time and energy and education and into how we're managing how we think and how we perceive and how we respond to the stressful conditions in our life?
You know, I've been very privileged to have some incredible guests here on the show, including yourself. I've had people here on the show from Barrow, from Banner Alzheimer's Institute, Dr. Pierre Theriault, Marwan Sabah, Dr. Sabah, and others. And, you know, one of the things they talk about is exactly what you said, you know, exercise and eating right. And they're talking about brain health as well. And they're saying that heart health is brain health.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, you know, people don't realize that. I mean, you want to help your brain. You need to get your heart in order. You need to make sure your ticker is at peak optimum performance. At least that's what I would think.
Well, it's interesting you say that because there is a direct correlation between low mood and depression and heart health. There is a 50% greater likelihood of heart issues related to depression, and it's what we call bidirectional. There's depression related to heart disease and heart disease related to depression. So they are very intertwined.
Interesting. I did not realize that. So I know we don't have a fast fix here. And I know that we have to just raise the awareness. That's what the month of May is. You know, let's get rid of the stigma. Let's recognize that people do generally have behavioral challenges. 25% of our population, 65 and older, has some type of behavioral challenge. And it's our job as stewards in our community, providers in our community, you as well as myself, is to recognize those signs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the joys of working at HomeCare is that we understand that, you have to treat the mind just as you're treating the body. And so one of the things that providers can do, and I highly recommend that they do, is take more time understanding what is going on emotionally and mentally with their patients. To take the time in those evaluations, to those treatment times. And I know that time is scarce, and I know that time is tight. I get that. But if you take a little bit extra time to really understand the emotional functioning of your patient and what's happening with them in their mind, and offering them real good, solid resources, not always just medication, but resources around counseling, around support services, around community centers, how to engage natural supports in their lives, spend that extra time providing, supportive resources to help that patient's functioning emotionally.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, we talked about social isolation for those that are living alone, and we know statistically nearly a third of our population is. So I'm going to pivot because my company that my family created here, Cypress HomeCare, the premise of our company, the origin of our company was to help families. Because we saw those family caregivers making that ultimate sacrifice. They are our unsung heroes. They're the ones that are helping their loved ones, whether it be a spouse helping another spouse, or an adult child helping a parent, or a niece or nephew helping an aunt or uncle. It is happening every single day. And I will give you an example, and obviously I won't mention names, but I have a client that could be coming in the door that I spent about a half an hour on the phone with today, and it was referred to me by a very, very important referral source. It's an attorney practice that works on estate planning, and the gentleman's got dementia, and she was suffering from cancer, and he was her caregiver. And the stress that he underwent as being a caregiver and she was in recovery. He ended up having an issue that he needed to get taken care of, dealing with his organs. It was, I think it was his colon, whatever, went through surgery. And the anesthesia, which is not uncommon, affected his mind. And all of a sudden, he's got dementia, and he's got challenges associated with that. And now she's in that role of being his caregiver, and guess what? Her cancer came back. Does that surprise you?
No.
The stress that she underwent by being a family caregiver, I truly believe, brought back on that cancer, because it is, you can't measure that. We've got to get these people help.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about stress is that stress is unavoidable. Stress is part of our journey. Stress is part of life. We can't stop stress. And I think oftentimes people mistakenly say, I'm feeling this way because of the stress that's happening to me. When actually that's not the case. The case is you're feeling this way because how you're thinking about the stress that is happening to you. Life is not about what happens to you. Life is about how you think about what happens to you.
I want our listening audience to pause and think about that, literally, because you're right. It's how you make it affect you. I mean, we all deal with stress.
Right.
It's halftime here at Health Futures. You've been listening to Rich Crislip from HomeCare, Arizona. We're talking Mental Health Awareness Month, the month of May. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM.
President Trump has not commented after a White House aide dismissed Senator John McCain's opposition to the nominee for CIA director, saying he's dying anyway. His daughter, Meghan McCain, reacted to the comment today on ABC's The View.
I don't understand what kind of environment you're working in when that would be acceptable, and then you can come to work the next day and still have a job.
The president has unveiled actions designed to make prescription drugs more affordable. President Trump says the proposal will increase competition, reduce regulations, and end abuses in the system.
Our plan bans the pharmacist gag rule, which punishes pharmacists for telling patients how to save money. This is a total ripoff. and we are ending it.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 63 points, the S&P 500 up 2, the Nasdaq down 10. I'm Ann Cates.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila. We're all looking for ways to simplify our lives. For small businesses, there's the Cabbage Card. The Cabbage Card is linked to a line of credit of up to $250,000. Apply online and get a quick decision.
Visit Cabbage.com or call 855-CABBAGE to get $100 back when you take your first loan. That's 855-CABBAGE with a K. Credit lines and pricing are subject to periodic review and change. This is not a revolving account. Individual request for capital or separate installment loans. All Cabbage business loans are issued by Celtic Bank, a Utah Chartered Industrial Bank, member FDIC.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
If you're still working, you're still making money. But what about retirement? Make sure you have reliable income then, too. Keep listening to your Money Radio experts to find out how.
Retired or retiring soon? Looking for real-world financial advice? Don't miss one of America's best daily radio shows on retirement investing, Mastering Money, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. with accredited investment fiduciary and Kiplinger contributor Steve Jurich. Listen as Steve lays out the strategies that can simplify your life, increase your income, and grow your money. Don't worry. Retire happy. Tune in to Mastering Money every day at 8 right here on Money Radio. See you there.
My mom's a breast cancer survivor. The United Breast Cancer Foundation saved her life. Their free breast cancer exam caught the cancer early, and it saved her life. But now the foundation needs your help so they can continue offering free or low-cost breast screening exams, saving more women's lives. Help them by donating your car, whether it's running or not. They'll provide fast, free 24-hour pickup, and you receive a charitable tax deduction, plus the great feeling you'll get knowing your donated car is going to help save more lives. Just call 800-475-6040 to set the wheels in motion. They take cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs, running or not. Call 800-475-6040. The United Breast Cancer Foundation needs your help, and your donation could literally save women's lives, helping them catch breast cancer early, like they did with my mom. Donate today. 800-475-6040. 800-475-6040.
The following update is for drivers who pay too much for car insurance due to DUIs, DWIs, tickets, or anything else. Our company specializes in low-cost SR22 auto insurance. We know that mistakes happen and offer free quotes for very affordable auto insurance meant specifically for you, the overpaying high-risk driver. The quote is free, and we'll handle the filing so you can start saving money. Call 800-749-2984. 800-749-2984. 800-749-2984.
Spend Mother's Day with the D-Backs. Sunday's game is at 5 p.m. and moms will take home the faux leather D-Backs tote bag. Check it out at dbacks.com/mom.
I'm Bruce Vail with Your Money Now. AT&T said it was a mistake to hire President Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, and the company fired its top Washington executive, Bob Quinn, after his office paid Mr. Cohen $600,000 last year. Mr. Quinn's office hired Mr. Cohen shortly after President Trump's inauguration and agreed to pay him $50,000 a month for insights into the new administration. The hiring came at a time when AT&T was seeking government approval for its proposed acquisition of Time Warner. Paint maker PPG Industries has fired its controller and reassigned employees after it found additional accounting errors worth millions of dollars and said its investigation into alleged violations of its accounting policies continues. PPG shares are down 4.5%. The broader market is mixed, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 66 points. The Nasdaq Composite is down 10 points. That's Your Money Now.
My number 2 does not look like a number 2. I don't know what to call it. Is there a number 3?
Table for 4, please. Anything close to the restroom.
Oh, a middle seat with these stomach problems? That's my fear of flying.
Sound like you? If it does, you could be one of the many people with a digestive condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Even if you don't know what EPI is, you might know the symptoms: frequent diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain. If you have even just one of these symptoms, you could still have EPI, because not everybody experiences EPI the same way, which is why it's so important to open up to your doctor about all your symptoms. And the good news is, EPI is manageable, so don't keep a lid on it. Go to identifyepi.com, complete the symptom checker, and use it to have a conversation with your doctor. Don't keep a lid on it. Visit identifyepi.com. Brought to you by AbbVie.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And if you're just tuning in, we're on our third segment, and we are talking Mental Health Awareness Month. The month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this all started back in 1949 to draw attention to this challenge that we're dealing with. But I'm sure back then they never, ever suspected that there would be such a large group of people dealing with this challenge. And at the top of the show, I talked about nearly one out of every 4 seniors, 65 and older, that's 25%, are suffering from some type of mental health illness. And that can be anything from depression, anxiety, or even dementia, which is continuing to grow. And I have got Rich Crislip, and he is with HomeCare Arizona, and he is director of the Behavioral Health Integration, and he has given our listening audience and me some really good information and tips on how to approach and how to deal with this, and how do we stop, because they're projecting by 2030 that we're talking about half of the population, 65 and older, is going to be dealing with mental health issues or behavioral health challenges, however you want to phrase that. So, I wanted to ask you, Rich, how do you start a conversation with a loved one that you fear may be struggling? Because I think that's the most difficult thing. We talked about stigma. How do you sit down with a parent, an aunt, uncle, grandparent, or even a friend and say, you know what, I'm suspecting there's something going on?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the first thing you have to do is just get comfortable with the fact that this is not an abnormal or uncommon thing. This is something that we all go through in periods of time in our life. Sometimes anxiety and depression can be episodic. It can be due to an issue, something that's come up in our life, or as we're growing up, or as we're dealing with loss, or any number of things can make us feel depressed or anxious. So I think that's your first step, to say, look, I understand that, we all can feel this way. So get comfortable with it, and then approach it in a way that is not shame-based. Approach it in a way that's not weakness-based, where, what's the matter with you? Why don't you snap out of it? Why are you always sitting around? And don't be attacking.
Right.
Be empathetic. Be sympathetic. And let them know that you see that there's some suffering going on. You can see that there's something happening that you want to help with. Mm-hmm. You want to approach them and say, hey, I'm here to connect with you and help you through this situation, whatever it may be.
And I would imagine, preface it by saying this comes from a place of love, comes from a place from the heart. I care genuinely about you, and I wouldn't be saying these things that I'm saying, but you haven't seemed like yourself.
Yeah. The first order of business is to manage yourself. Oftentimes, especially with loved ones, when we see our loved ones suffering, it can cause a little panic in ourselves. It can cause anxiety in ourselves, and we don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, we become a little bit agitated by it and tend to become a little bit, sometimes, attacking. What's the matter? What's going on with you? Why don't you talk to me?
Snap out of it.
Snap out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's usually, even though our heart may be saying,
pull yourself up by your big boy panties.
Right. And a lot of that is based on because we don't know what to do. So first manage that. and say, okay, I need to rethink this, and I need to come at them from a place of compassion and love and non-judgment.
Right.
That I can see that you're hurting. It's okay that you're hurting. You know, it happens, and there's help. There's ways out of this. There's hope in restoration, and I want to be a part of it.
All right, so we've gotten to that point where you approach somebody and you make it known that, hey, I see something going on. So what can you do if you suspect someone you care about then needs help? How do you have that conversation? How do you say, okay, we've identified this. Mm-hmm. How do we get you help?
Well, let them know that there's lots of help available. And now I know that one of the issues that our country and our current healthcare system is dealing with is just the shortage of mental health professionals. That's a national issue. And especially as we get into older adults, there's even a greater shortage of professionals that understand the needs of older adults. So, but that doesn't mean we don't have resources. So the first point is, like, let's get your doctor involved. Your doctor's taking care of you, and
right.
He or she needs to understand what's going on. So can I go with you at your next appointment? Because oftentimes we don't like to admit when we're suffering emotionally. And so saying, hey, I'm going to go with you, and let's talk about this with your doctor.
So I'm going to – it's not me. It didn't happen to me personally, but I've seen it happen with a client.
Mm.
So what do you say to that loved one when they say to you, no, I don't want you going with me? Because it happened just a couple weeks ago with a client of mine, and we suspect more on the dementia side, and we suggested that this gentleman didn't have any family members, but he has a POA, and he also has a caregiver that he really loved, and we suggested that they go with him. He didn't want that. And I imagine that happens at times. So what do you do then?
Well, number one, anticipate that. Anticipate no. And don't view no as the door slamming in your face or the end of the conversation or the end of the attempt to help. No is just simply okay, that's one no. I've got 100 in my pocket that I'm going to go through.
Right.
I'm going to, say, okay, I can see you're not ready to talk about this, but I'm going to come at you, and let's talk about it again tomorrow. You think about it.
Right.
Just think about it. But then come back to it. Bring in other supports. Keep at it softly and gently, and let the mind stew. Let the person think on it. Because oftentimes their first no is based on an emotional reaction.
Right.
So give them time to think on it, but then come back at it again. Don't stop at that first no.
But it's interesting, and this isn't just with seniors, because it happened with a friend of mine. When you go to the doctor, the first thing the doctor says is, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you're really not fine. I had a friend of mine that had a heart issue and was dealing with some challenges, and day and a half, 2 days later, he had a massive heart attack. Mm-hmm. And he did not bring that up to his doctor.
Yeah.
So, the village, the family, we need to all get together, and we need to be able to say, look, your sanctuary is with your doctor, but you need to talk to him.
Yeah.
Or her, and tell them what you're going through.
Well, again, it goes back to that old sad stigma that what happens in our mind is something that we don't bring up.
Right.
Because it's private, or it's shameful, or we view it as weakness, which is all false. Those are all false things that we say to ourselves that only hurt us in the end.
So tell me, is it different between genders? Because I have to tell you, I think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think male typically, we're fix-it kind of guys. And if something's broken, I'm not going to talk to you about it. I got it. I'm going to be able to fix it. And women typically are more sharing.
Mm.
So do you see that different?
I think that's an easy generalization to make. I think men in general tend to internalize more, tend to not bring up shortcomings or difficulties that they're having or emotional issues that they may be having, because they'll feel that that's just too vulnerable.
Right.
We don't want to make ourselves weak. We want to look strong and sturdy. But that doesn't mean that we are not just as vulnerable to the emotional distresses that we put ourselves through and that life can put us through. So yes, I think women are better at talking about their feelings and talking about hardships and distresses with their female friends. And men could learn a little bit from that, because we're human beings just like they are, and just as vulnerable as they are.
So if you're listening in and you suspect that your loved one, could be your dad, could be your grandfather, could be your uncle or brother, you need to probe a little bit deeper. You need to get into those feelings and tell me what is going on, because they're not going to share, typically, stereotypically. Hard to believe. We're down one more segment. We're down 3 segments, Rich. You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're talking Mental Health Awareness Month. Stay tuned for our last segment. We'll be right back.
Gunderson's nationwide Best Stocks radio show is now on Money Radio 1510 AM and 105.3 FM. Every morning from 9 to 10 a.m., professional money manager Bill Gunderson will talk about the economy, markets, and the best stocks now. Bill Gunderson is also the inventor of the Best Stocks Now app and the writer of the weekly Best Stocks Now newsletter. If you like to invest in the markets, this is the show for you. You will not want to miss one episode. Visit GundersonCapital.com for more info. That's GundersonCapital.com.
Darren College, a former NFL Super Bowl champion, signed the most important contract of his life to serve in the Army National Guard.
I've had a lot of military in my family. It's a big part of what my family's done for a long time. I want to go out there and make a difference. I didn't find that working behind a desk, so for me it was a pretty easy decision to make. And then the opportunity to serve my community and serve my country was just icing on the cake.
To learn how to be part of the Army National Guard, log on to nationalguard.com. Sponsored by the Arizona Army National Guard. Aired by the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
What's your IRS problem? Do you owe back taxes? Is there a lien placed on your property? Have your bank accounts been frozen or seized? Have your wages been garnished? Are you being audited by the IRS? Are they sending you letters that demand actions and have urgent due dates? Well, solving your tax problems is as easy as calling Taxes 321. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. You need the best representation to give you peace of mind. You need experienced professionals that can cut through the red tape and stop the collection process. If you have a serious problem with the IRS, call the Taxes 321 network today. We'll get them off your back.
800-203-3517, 800-203-3517, 800-203-3517, 800-203-3517.
Suffering from knee or back pain? Call 800-616-KNEE and learn how a Medicare-covered knee or back brace may solve your pain. 90% satisfaction rating. 800-616-KNEE.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. We're on our 4th segment. Hard to believe it's Friday, May 11th, and we're talking Mental Health Awareness Month. And I've got Rich Crislip. He is the Director of Behavioral Health Integration over at HomeCare, Arizona. And if you missed the first 3 segments, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. There's a drop down. The 3rd button down is radio show. You can catch the first 3 segments and about 200 others that we've been bringing to you for the last 5 years. So we have really talked a lot, Rich, about behavioral health challenges, mental health challenges. What is the right nomenclature to use? I mean, there's that stigma again. You don't want to tell somebody they got a mental health issue. That's not me. Mm-hmm. What do you prefer to use, or what do your members like to see you use? What are you seeing more in the behavioral health area?
Well, the way I like to work with our members is that I just call it healthcare. I don't call it mental health care or behavioral health care. It is healthcare, because I know, and this is based on scientific and social research, that the mind directly impacts the body. And we need to treat how our mind is, the health of our mind, we treat it just as importantly as we do with any other part of our body. So please, if you're having any kind of issues with anxiety or depression, and it's been lasting more than a few weeks, and you're feeling down, don't look at this as something just to be quiet about and silent about. You should be saying to yourself, it's like, okay, there's something going on in my mind that I have healthcare resources available, just like anything else with my body.
Well, you talked about it in the first segment. I think a great way to refer to it is brain health.
Yeah.
It's brain health.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're all tied to one another. I really believe that diet, nutrition, and exercise and good sleep helps us reduce that stress that can bring on all these things that we talked about. And you said it also in the first segment. Now, listening audience, did you hear that? You got to go back to the show if you haven't heard this. If you're just tuning in right now, you said in the first segment, it's all on how you deal with the stress. We all deal with stress.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a ton of stress, but you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
But it's how you process it,
it's
right?
how you think about it.
Right.
It's the one area that I believe that you have total control over is how you think.
Right.
And that's where we should be putting the majority of our energy in how we think about things that are happening to us. There are resources out there that can teach you those skills here at HomeCare, where in our community centers we do classes on this.
So I want you to take an opportunity to talk about HomeCare Arizona. You have 3 different community centers,
Correct.
and I want you to talk about some of these classes that help people with that brain health that we're talking about.
Yeah, so in our 3 community centers located in North Phoenix, Chandler, and Goodyear, we offer classes that are free to both our members and the community. You don't have to be an HomeCare member to attend these courses. You can come and join us. And we have classes that I do. We call it Healthy Minds, and we talk a lot about how to use your mind effectively and in ways that will benefit both your emotional and physical health, will help you deal more appropriately and more effectively with the stressful situations that happen to us, and whether that be illness or loss. And we also work with strengthening your memory and your thought processes and your judgment in classes called Brain Savers. And we have exercise facilities that will strengthen your physical body as well as, of course, enhancing your mood.
And it's not just regular exercise stuff. This has really sophisticated stuff,
top of the line
stuff that you wouldn't even find in your regular gym.
Yes,
and it's free.
Yeah,
free.
And
Very
exercise is directly related to your mood. Exercise is one of the best things you can do to improve your mood.
And you guys, I may be speaking out of turn. Do you do Tai Chi? Not Chai Tea. Tai Chi. Thank you.
Yeah, I should have brought a calendar to list all the things they do. I can't keep up on all the things that they do. They do wonderful kinds of different exercise classes and dance classes and social connection. That's the other thing. It's a wonderful place to be socially connected.
And that kind of circles back also to something we talked about in the first and second segment, and that was social isolation. And and coming out to your community centers will help defray that possibility of happening. I mean, people will look forward to getting together, and you make friends there. I would imagine these classes that you're teaching
definitely
are usually the same people coming in every week after week.
Yes, I see people in there coming in every day. They're wonderful living areas that people can congregate and talk and share, and they're wonderful to make friends, but also just to be a part of and around a community of people, which is essential, vital. I love that word, vital, to your emotional health.
It's interesting. I went out to your website, so I want everyone to know, OptumCare.com. You get out there. It says, looking for care in another state, because it didn't come up to Arizona for me. Just make sure you click on Arizona. You can find the community centers, you can find doctors, you can find information about joining. Everything is right there. It's pretty robust.
Yeah.
So as we get ready to wind down, I mean, the fact of the matter is we're aging at such a rapid rate. We all know 10,000 people a day are turning 65, 3.6 million people a year. We also know that by 2056, we're going to have more people 65 and older than 18 and younger. That'll be the first time for our country. So getting older, loss is something that happens. Illness is something that happens. We are going to see more and more of this, and that's why I wanted to have you here on the show, is to talk about how do we deal with this? How do we prevent 1 out of 4 65-year-olds having behavioral health or brain health issues with the number that we're being told in 12 years to double to 50%. You've given us a lot. I've got maybe a minute or two left in the show. I want you to just take a second or take these minute or two to give our listening audience some takeaways from our conversation today about May being Mental Health Awareness Month.
Well, again, the first takeaway is just please view how your mind is doing as important as your total body. That your mind and the functioning of your mind is your greatest asset in both preventing emotional issues, but also improving your overall physical and emotional health. Your mind is your greatest asset, and it's free. There's no copay to using your mind.
I love it.
There's no fees involved. There's no appointments you need to make. You can use your mind effectively, but your mind can work against you as well. It can work for you or against you. Your mind is always working, always. But you can learn ways to make it work for you. So don't be private or secretive about it. This is not a moral issue or a weakness issue. This is a healthcare issue. So please, if you are dealing with any kind of sadness that is lasting more than a couple of weeks or anxiety that's lasting more than a couple of weeks, come out and talk about it with your doctor. Talk about it with loved ones. Share about it, because you know that there's help, there's support, and there's a way out of it, and there is hope for restoring that for a better quality of life.
And you know what? It's more acceptable today. I mean, it's not 20 years ago.
Right.
It's not your grandfather's health care. It's not your father's health care. Today, people are more receptive to talking about brain health and your overall health care. But I loved how you talked about it's free.
Yeah.
I mean, the mind is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I think I want to leave with just the very fact that, you know, if you take care of your heart and you eat the right foods, your brain health is generally really good.
Yes.
So I'm going to leave with you guys a little bit of The Who. This is Bobo O'Reilly, not Teenage Wasteland. And thank you. Thank you, Rich Crislip. We talked about a very important issue.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Retired or retiring soon? Looking for real-world financial advice? Don't miss one of America's best daily radio shows on retirement investing, Mastering Money, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. with accredited investment fiduciary and Kiplinger contributor Steve Jurich. Listen as Steve lays out the strategies that can simplify your life, increase your income, and grow your money. Don't worry. Retire happy. Tune in to Mastering Money every day at 8 right here on Money Radio. See you there.
Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
KFNN Mesa, Phoenix, and K287BX Mesa. News is next, then it's back to talking about, guess what? Money. That's what we do that nobody else here is doing. We're Money Radio. Take a look at the market numbers. Dow up 94 points at 24,832. S&P up 5 points at 2727. And NASDAQ down just 3 at 7401.
When people want to talk about money, this is the place they come to. And there's more on the way after this break for the latest news. And we begin